Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Neuro Pride Ask Me Anything. This is I'm a neurodivergent community builder, Ask Me Anything, and I have three guests today who are going to talk about their community building efforts and their organisations and why they think community building is important. So we have Leslie from Laicus, we have Zoe from the Autistic Art Club, and we have Stephen from Aspire. Leslie, I'll come to you first. Would you like to describe what Laicus is to everybody?
Hi, okay, so I'm Leslie Hughes and I set up Laicus, the Warrior Soul Project in 2018. Basically what we do is we are a children's mental health charity for 18-year-olds right the way down to whatever age. And we basically came together to tackle the massive gaps that are out there for children and young people with mental health issues and accessing the right supports that they might need. Along the journey, while we were between doing our camps and our one-to-one sessions, we discovered that a lot of young people that came to us were neurodivergent. So we've started kind of branching out now to doing different groups and facilitating as many people as we can. So so that's basically what we are and what we do.
Thank you. Zoe, would you like to tell us about the Autistic Art Club?
Yeah, so I set up the Autistic Art Club, I think, in 2021, and it's basically a social group primarily, but we use art kind of as the thing to bring people together. We do lots of different art activities. I say they're very relaxed, and I suppose we kind of mostly run groups for adults, but I'm kind of branching out more to do stuff for kind of different age groups as well. And yeah, that's the Autistic Art Club.
And is that online or is it in person?
Mostly online. Yeah, and there's like plans for in person, but yeah, it's mostly online over Zoom.
Excellent. Thank you. And Stephen, do you want to tell us a little bit about Aspire?
Yeah, so I'm Stephen. I'm the engagement officer for Aspire. I've been the facilitator of the Aspire adult social group since 2018, I believe. So we have a monthly social group for autistic adults in Token, which is an arcade bar in Dublin city centre in Smithfield. So obviously when COVID hit, we weren't able to hold that group. So we started an online group as well, where we play party games over Zoom. And maybe 4 months ago, we've now also restarted our in-person social group in Token.
Fantastic. So I think I'll just launch straight into it if that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
Leslie, why would you think neurodivergent community building is important?
Okay, so from my own experience, I suppose, from learning that, going from somebody who spent a long time feeling like I didn't belong in any box, and not understanding why I didn't really feel like I felt like I belonged in any box in particular. And then all of a sudden meeting people who I began to really identify with, and like yourself, Gillian. So which kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, okay, neurodivergent, that is definitely what's going on here, and kind of opened my eyes to the fact that there is a community out there that you can actually reach out to and watch what other people are doing and learn from other people. I think basically what it did for me was it gave me a lot more acceptance of myself, more understanding, and yeah, just a lot more clarity. And actually, this is who I am, and this is why I am who I am. So that kind of made me think as well, like, about my own childhood and teenage years, and as far back as I can remember, the first time looking in the mirror and myself going, who am I and why, wow, what's going on here? I think if I had a link to a community where I would have been able to kind of see those things, it probably would have steered me in a different path. It would have maybe helped me to understand myself a lot better. But basically, I think it's important because there's a lot of people out there who desperately are feeling lost, and need to know that they're not, there's nothing wrong with them. And yes, there is differences, but it's positive differences, and that there are so many positives to our community that, yeah, it's just lovely to be able to link in with each other to see that.
Thanks a million. And Zoe, I know you said that you set up the Autistic Art Club during COVID. Why did you feel it was important to set up a neurodivergent community, especially at that time?
I mean, I don't think that was ever my intention. But I guess so I was diagnosed as autistic during the lockdown. And I suppose for me, I was just like, I didn't know, and there was no autistic person in my life. And I suppose when you're kind of looking for resources or looking to learn about yourself, there's nothing really there. And so I felt that the only way I was going to learn about myself was to meet other autistic people, right, and learn about myself through those discussions. So that's how the Autistic Art Club kind of started for me. It was I wanted that space, and I think it is really important that we do develop our own communities and our own supports for ourselves, because I think we just naturally set them up in a kind of a neurodiverse affirmative way without even really thinking about it. And I think they're the spaces that we desperately need, especially when you're, late diagnosed and you're just learning about yourself. The only resource we have is each other, really. Because I feel like research, and I suppose you Google anything to do with autism, you just get loads of stuff about kids and early kind of developmental stuff, which isn't really applicable to late diagnosed adults. So I think it's so important that we have these spaces to go to, that we can meet each other and kind of learn about each other and develop that kind of acceptance of who we are.
Excellent, thank you very much. And Stephen, I know Aspire set up the gaming night and in the online and the in-person in Token. Why did Aspire think that was important? Why do you think it's important?
Well, one of the reasons I think it's so important is that one of the big issues is I'm unsure about other kind of neurodivergent communities, but in the autism community, isolation is a huge issue for people. That people, when growing up, maybe if they're like I was diagnosed when I was 17, just sitting my leaving cert, that people might have grown up being the weird kid, that they might not have made a bunch of friends, that having these, one of the main rules I've always had for the Aspire social group is that there's no stupid question. Anyone can talk about any topic they're interested in. People are free to stim away in whatever way they want. That just knowing that you can, having communities like this and knowing that you can be free to be you and people will still like you for who you are is incredibly important to people socially and for their mental health.
Excellent, thank you so much. So a question that came in was, I might stick with you, Stephen, if that's okay. How do you balance different sensory preferences or needs? How has that arisen as an issue? And how do you balance it? How do you address it? Because I know from personal experience that I found Token quite overwhelming. I enjoyed being there, but it was very, very loud. I have hyperacusis and misophonia, so I found it really overwhelming. So how do you balance different people's needs, that need for social connection and stuff, but in an environment that might be overwhelming?
Yeah, so we've been very lucky with Token that the room they get, or the area they give us for it, is what's called Token 2, their second bar, which is kind of a separate room off to the side. You do have to walk through their main bar to get to it, but there is a double door between them, so it is a lot quieter. And they are able to turn off the music in it separately. It's not actually arisen yet that we've had two people with competing kind of sensory issues, but because of the size of the room we have, it holds about 100 people, but the attendance we average around 15, 16.
All right, so it's a big space.
So it's a big space and there's multiple tables. So how we plan to deal with it if it ever arises is that we can have people sit in different, because there usually are different groups talking about different topics. That if, say, one person has a stim that's particularly loud, they like clicking a pen or something like that, and another person like yourself and myself might have misophonia, can't handle that kind of thing, that those two people could then sit in different groups and are still free to converse and chat and get the social interaction without feeling like they're being judged or being excluded because of something.
Yeah. Leslie, I know that you're working with younger people. So, like, obviously as adults, people have learned more self-regulation. They've learned, I suppose, social norms of people having different needs and stuff like that. Have you found it an issue in younger groups, and how do you address it?
In the group, say for the 12 to 16-year-old group, we've been so far, it's been really, really fine. They like that. We have the chat at the very first day to talk about, everybody's different needs and to be mindful of each other. And so far, it's not really become a big issue. Like that, like you were saying, Stephen, if there is somebody that's doing something, they kind of generally tend to kind of catch themselves doing it, and they might bring it up, and the other people then will kind of comment and say, oh, that's okay, it's not bothering me. So far that's been okay with that age group. With the smaller group, I'll use the example of the balloon popping. We had one young boy who really, really wanted a balloon to be popped. He chose me actually to go with him to pop the balloon. And I hate pops. I hate balloons that pop. But it was really, really funny in that, like, what we did was, I knew that there was a lot of young people there that had ear defenders, and so we had taken a list of their, different sensory needs, and so we went outside. Went outside altogether, but I was too chicken to do it, so I actually had to get another helper to go out and do the popping. But what was funny was the young person who wanted it popped kept running away from it, because he wanted the other person to have it. Was like he wanted them to have the effect of it and him be in the background listening to it. But like that, yeah, look, everyone, like, it's kind of a case, I suppose, with the smaller ones, is that we're kind of helping them to understand that it's okay to do these things, but we'll just need to be mindful of other people's sensory issues and to just check in with each other. So I think what's different between the younger group for us and the older one is that we're actually giving those young people that kind of skill of, yes, this is fine, they can do it, but we'll just have to be just mindful of other people too, and just kind of give little different options, or go to a different area, like you were saying, Stephen, if you want to move along to a different table. But it helps if you've got an outdoor area and balloons. Definitely.
Excellent. And Zoe, in terms of your own neurodivergence, what have been the benefits or the good things about it, and what would you perceive as maybe challenges or things that you might have struggled with a bit in terms of being the community leader, being the person that other people are turning to?
Yeah, I think, like, generally in group scenarios, I would be the person that's like, oh, I'm not sure when to speak, or like, like really like awkward, and then will probably be the person who's likely to just end up saying nothing. So I think being the facilitator has really pushed me out of my comfort zone completely, where I am the person who is, like, directing the group as such or whatever. But I think the fact that, you know, I am that person who is kind of maybe like more would have anxieties in group situations, that I think it, and I'm like always in my groups, I'm always very open about that, and I think that makes it a nicer environment, because I'm not pretending, I'm not going to pretend to be someone else in my groups, because that's not what my groups are about. So I am just who I am, and you know, I think it works really well. And I think being in neurodivergent social spaces gives me energy, but neurotypical social spaces do not give me energy. They take up my energy. So I always feel so like energized and fulfilled after being in a group with neurodivergent people. Yeah, and I think the fact that, you know, I am very honest and open about like who I am, what I struggle with, makes my spaces the way they are, and that everyone, and I think that encourages everyone else to just be who they are as well, because like I think we have this expectation that a facilitator is this like confident person who like knows everything and like, you know, is the like expert, but that's not kind of how I do things. Like I would see everyone as just as an expert. I'm not an art expert at all. Like so yeah, that's kind of how I do it, and I think it helps. Yeah.
Yeah, so you, as you said, mentioned about setting up a space, naturally setting it up to be neuroaffirmative, and that's the kind of thing. And I know in Neuro Pride we've had people come to us, neurotypical people, and be like, "Oh wow, that's amazing!" And the like the communication badges and stuff. Oh my goodness, can I like? Oh, why don't I bring that in and everything? It's like that's the thing that I think people don't realize. You know, accommodations. If you actually set up a space to be neuroaffirmative or neurodivergent friendly, shall we say, actually it suits the vast majority of people. Do you know, it actually does. It actually, like, especially I'm an early childhood educator and I help Leslie with the groups, just to be full disclosure. But setting up the groups to suit neurodivergent children, actually that works for all children. It actually works for all children. So then you just extrapolate that up for every age group. So yeah, so is there anything else that any of you would like to say? Any other things that you would like to say about neurodivergent community building, or why you did it, I suppose?
I think sometimes you can hear, I don't know if anyone else has come across this, but you can hear people say like, oh, you can't make accommodations for autistic people because we're all so different. And I disagree. I think it's a bit of a lazy way of kind of responding to our diverse needs. Like we have all created spaces that work for neurodivergent people, and yeah, like sometimes there can be conflicts or like a conflict of like sensory issues or whatever, but they're very easily overcome. And I think we have to remember that like there are just really small things that we need to do in terms of building kind of social spaces that work for neurodivergent people, and it is possible to do, and it's like I would say it's not that difficult.
Excellent. And Stephen, I know that Aspire was a parent-led organisation. I don't know if it still is, but I know it was set up initially like that.
Yeah, it was founded by two parents.
Yeah. So what would your advice be for other parent-led organisations that may feel like they'd like to build up community events and stuff? Like Zoe was saying, that the people will say, oh, but it's so difficult and the conflicting needs and blah, blah. So what would your advice be to people who are kind of struggling, I suppose, with that?
That's a bit of a difficult question for me to answer. That like Aspire while it was set up by two parents, they had moved on by the time I came around.
Right, okay.
But if what I would say is that if people are kind of struggling to find a community or to find a social outlet that works for them or for their relative or their child, that these we do exist, we are out there. That just persist in searching, and like you will be able to find somewhere. That like I hate the old analogy of autistic people just being a square peg trying to go into a round hole, and it's just it's not that it needs to change shape, you're just trying to put it in the wrong hole. Like there is a social outlet out there somewhere that will work for the person. That just be persistent and keep searching, you will find us. Like friends will be able to be made. Like I in school, I will openly admit I was the nerdy loner with not a whole lot of friends, and then was in college. I just found my tribe, and then just finally started making a bunch of friends, and now I've got multiple large friend groups that I spend time with all the time. That it's just, don't give up. Like I know it can be very discouraging when you are struggling to kind of meet people and make friends, but keep at it. And there are places you can reach out for help or assistance with this, like our.
And we on the Neuro Pride website, we will try and link to different groups and make those connections, and so people can find them a bit easier. And on a personal, like from me, I really think the importance of it being neurodivergent led can't be understated. Like, if you're coming to the community who know, as you said, Stephen, who have gone through that, I don't think that experience that you talk about of being in school and being the lonely, nerdy, I think it's not everybody's experience, but it's a huge experience. Unfortunately, most of the stories that we hear are of finding school difficult, being bullied, being ostracized, being made to feel outside of the social circle. So yeah, I think what you're doing, all of you are doing, is amazing, and I think it's really, really important work. And I'm really glad that we got a chance to talk to you about it. I'm going to finish up there if nobody has anything burning that they want to say and get off their chest. But I really
can I just say something little tiny thing, just on what you're talking about there with setting it up. I just think, like, remember when I was going to start up, like, as people saying like, oh, you won't be able to do it, you know, a couple of, you know, neurotypical people actually who were saying nothing's wrong, but you can't do it, no, it won't happen. And these things seem a little bit scary maybe to start with, but if you build it, they will come, like, you know, that is true. And if you just go with your gut, and like you were saying, Gillian, make sure that the people around you are all there for the actual, you know, that are there for the genuine reason, like, and that everyone has the same kind of ethos. It will just happen. And like that, it doesn't have to be like one particular box, like you were saying, like one size doesn't fit all, like, and but in a sense it kind of can do, because we started off with just an open group, and a lot of neurodivergent people actually just came along, and that's how we discovered it. So it's grown into that. So I just think if you make it a safe, open space that's inclusive, and just keep an open mind, that it will happen. It will happen. Yeah, sorry.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much. And yeah, thank you all so very much. It really means a lot that you took time out of your very busy schedules. I know you're all very busy people. And I hope you get to come to some of the Neuro Pride meetups, and I'll see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.